Tuesday of the month, time to catch up with Whiteside County. Here's Greg Naftzger.
Thank you, Gary. And yeah, it's time for our monthly visit with the Whiteside County Soil and Water Conservation District. And as usual, Dave Harrison's in with us this morning. And we've got a list of items that we want to talk about. How are you doing today there, David?
Excellent, Greg. Besides being extremely hot already. Wow. It's going to be a scorcher out there today. Be careful, folks. It's nasty.
Yep, that's what weatherman says, probably the worst day of the week. So get through this and it'll...
Yeah, it's supposed to cool down by the weekend.
A little bit, yeah.
Sounds like we might get a little rough weather tonight. Hopefully we get some rain. I don't know about Clinton, but that last rain that went through, I had enough to see sprinkles on my glass top picnic table, and that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, even the deck wasn't wet.
Yeah.
And we could use another good inch and a half. That'd be fantastic if we
and just a nice steady rain.
Yeah.
Nothing.
We don't need downpours, but over a few hours. Yeah, but a couple inches over a week would be kind of nice.
How's things looking crop wise?
Actually, the crops, the ones I've been walking through, I've been checking a lot of CRPs, so I've had to walk through crops to a few of them, and everything looks pretty good so far. I've noticed some insect activity. I walked through a bean field yesterday that had some Japanese beetles on it. They were kind of, working on the leaves, but there were pods. These were tall beans. They were almost up to my shoulders. There were pods from the bottom of the plant all the way up to the top. And so now it's basically just filling it out. The same with the corn. I'd say 99% of the pollination is done. So now it's getting the nutrients in the water to finish out the crop. But so far, so good. That last rain we had 2-3 weeks ago, I think was a saving rain. And if we get something this week, I think we'll be all right. Plus some cool weather during the end of the week. That's going to be the key.
Yeah, because the corn next to us here, that plot looks really good.
Yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape for as miserable as the summer's been. Everything's looking okay. The telling of the tale will be how far out into it always is. It's how far out into the tip those kernels go. If there's been some insect damage or some stress from heat, you'll peel back that husk and you'll see that there might be an inch or two where there's no kernels, and then things go a little bit sideways. So far, so good. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, let's get to the list here. Number one topic today is cicadas.
Cicadas. I wanted to update the listeners on that. I talked about that, I think, maybe 2 months ago, about how we're kind of missing the huge wave of the cicadas. That the East Coast is going to be first, and ours is probably going to come in about a year and a half. And they're out there. You can hear them, especially in the evenings. You'll hear them kind of doing their thing. But so far, they haven't been too bad, and that's kind of what I expected. We'd have a light outcome of them, and then 2 years from now, then the big wave's going to hit us. So be prepared. Get your earplugs bought while they're cheap, and you'll be able to sleep. But so far, so good. It's not too bad. And remember, the adults, basically, they don't do anything but breed, lay eggs, and then the young ones head underneath the ground for a number of years and feed on the tree roots, basically, the sap out of those. So then, they're fairly... they don't really cause any problems, besides maybe you have to close your windows on a nice night when you want to open them to get to sleep. But other than that, they don't really cause a big deal. So
it's just the occurrence of it.
It is.
I guess, at every day.
I had somebody ask me the other day, which is a weird question, have I ever eaten a cicada? And I said, yes, I have eaten them. Years ago, somebody gave me a box of chocolate-covered insects, and they tasted like crispy shrimp. They had kind of a weird flavor, like a fishy taste to them almost. But I have eaten them, and I don't think I'd make a habit of it. I have eaten them. So if you're ever wondering, yes, they're edible. So
you know what to get you for Christmas.
No, thank you, Greg.
Okay, topic number 2, fall food plot bags.
Yeah, we offered our food plot bags, and the first go-round was sold in a week. We sold every one of them. They're a little bit more expensive this year simply because the market price on all these seeds are sky high. We've got a 3-way 1-acre bag of turnips, collards, and oats. We were offering them at $38. We can get more in if somebody's interested. So if you got a multi-acre offer and you want to call and ask about it, we'll get more seed in and put some more together. But it was amazing. We sent out like a blast on our email list, and they were all gone, I think, within 2 days. And so we didn't want to hold a lot of inventory over, so that's why we only did, I think we ended up with 150 pounds the first go around. But if you're interested, get to the office, call 815-772-2124 extension 3 and let either Tricia or I know. And if we get enough orders, then we'll reorder. And we can usually get the seed here within a few days, so it's a pretty easy thing.
Okay. And once again, what did you say are in these?
Turnips, collards, and oats. And the nice thing about all three of those is you don't have to terminate them or kill them in the spring. Usually they winter kill. And I'll be honest with you, what I did is I took a bunch of the turnips and I overseeded my garden boxes with them. So if you look at my garden boxes, like now, right now, there's a carpet of turnips coming up. But you can eat them. You know, turnips, I like to use them in place of potatoes. They're very good. And collard greens, if you boil them, some people like to put ham chunks in them. They're really very, very tasty. And, you know, oats, I guess you could harvest those if you want. But so there's some, human food in this thing too. Most people just use them for deer or turkey food plots. So.
Okay. Number 3 is the Illinois nutrient strategy versus cover crops.
Yeah. Some bad news came out of Louisiana and the Gulf of Mexico this past week. There were reports that this is one of the biggest hypoxia zones that's formed since they've been keeping track of it, which is kind of unusual in a dry year. But, it's not going away, folks. And right now, at least in Illinois, and I applaud Iowa. You guys have put a lot more money into this effort than we have. But Illinois is trying to do what they can. The goal by 2025 was a 25% reduction in phosphorus coming down the river and 15% reduction in nitrogen. What I can tell you, we've done some limited water testing on tile lines in Whiteside County, and nitrogen is so high in the water we're getting out that the machine won't even register. We are finding some phosphorus coming out of the tile lines too, which is unusual. Usually, I was taught that phosphorus leaves the field from erosion. It attaches to a soil particle and washes off the field. The University of Minnesota did a study a few years ago, and our limited sample is starting to bear this out too, is that phosphorus is seeping out of these fields through water too. So it's something to keep in mind. In Illinois, at least, the goal overall is to eventually get a reduction of 45%. So we got a long ways to go. The problem is right now it's voluntary. I don't know what's going to happen in 2 years if we hit 2025 and we haven't made major progress or achieved this goal. So you may see another agency stepping in. Right now, the Illinois Department of Ag, along with Illinois EPA, is kind of pushing this effort on a volunteer basis, along with some non-governmental groups. But I suspect that if these goals aren't met in 2025, you're going to see some legislative action, which could be a regulation on the amount of nitrogen as a producer you can buy every year. It's going to be rationed out. I think that's how it's going to happen, but I'm not sure yet. But, cover crops have been proven to take anywhere from 35 to 45% of those nutrients and lock them into the field where they can be used and keep them out of the tile water. So this is a cheap, practical way, and especially cereal rye. It's an easy plant to grow. Thing is, you have to terminate it in the spring. But if you're using herbicides anyway, a lot of those herbicides will kill the rye too. And it holds a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus in that field. So if you're thinking about making some changes to help this effort, both in Illinois and Iowa, cover crops are probably the thing to look at, because you could achieve your goal just with those. You don't have to put any, nitrogen denitrifiers in the edge of the field or anything else. You can beat your goal just by using a cover crop. So keep that in mind. And there's a lot of folks out there that are very, even with the fertilizer companies, that are very, very knowledgeable about this stuff, and they can help you get started. So, but we need to do something quick. It's getting there.
Okay. Topic 4, fall garden planting.
Yeah, I always get questions about gardens for some reason. They must think if I know about native plants, I know about gardens too, which I do know a little bit about, but and most of it's based on personal experience. And what I can tell you, YouTube's a great resource. I look at that a lot for different things, and there's a lot of short videos on there about fall planting in gardens, August, July, September plantings. And they're practical plantings that you can use both to build up your garden and for food. What I've planted in the last few weeks here is peas, regular sweet peas or sugar peas, we're going to call them. Turnips, of course. Put zucchini in, and it's doing really well as a late planting, and lettuce. We do have some late planted tomatoes in there. I don't know if they're going to make it or not. That's kind of it depends when the first frost is. If they make it through October, we'll be okay. Sounds like a Merle Haggard song. Anyway, but peas, turnips, zucchini, and lettuce are really great late season crops. They'll help your soil. Plus, they also give you a nice harvest once everything else starts shutting down. Because I got zucchini plants now that are tossing out 5 or 6 zucchinis a day. So I'm going to have an extra plant going into September, October when the other plants are shutting down. So we'll be making zucchini bread all the way through Christmas probably. The amount I picked 3 more this morning. It was like, oh man, now I know I got to do tonight when I get home. Boy. So anyway, but fall planting is a great time. Don't forget about them. It's a good time to supplement your gardens.
Okay. Number 5, duck stamps.
Yeah. Even if you don't hunt ducks or migratory waterfowl, you should buy a duck stamp. It's $25, and it's a cheap way to help wetlands and build habitat in all the states. Because what happens, the federal government takes that money. Part of it goes into the refuge systems, like the refuge on the Mississippi, but a lot of it gets turned back to the states for habitat work, especially wetlands. And for $25, it's a cheap contribution, and you can really be proud that you're doing something to help habitat. The other thing that's nice about a duck stamp is you get into the refuge systems free. So if they're charging to get you into a refuge, if you show your duck stamp, you get it free. So there's an added benefit also to that. But it's a great, simple, cheap way to help habitat all over the country.
Okay, real good. And our final topic today is dove season.
Dove season. I know in Iowa that's always been, or in the past, had been a little bit controversial, but they finally opened it up. In Illinois, and I think in Iowa too, around the first week in September, the season's open. It's a very, very short season. Doves migrate early. Usually by the 2nd or 3rd week in September, the majority of them are gone, especially if it gets below 50 degrees. If you're in that 45-degree area, they start going south. Couple things keep in mind. I like to use steel shot because most of the places where you're shooting doves, there's food. And doves are ground feeders. And you don't want them ingesting lead pellets. Steel number 7s are very effective as far as you can shoot them, it'll kill them. There's no doubt about it. I've used them in all sorts of shotguns over the years. It's a great load. But consider using a non-toxic load, and make sure you swing way ahead of them, because once they hear the shots going off, you're not going to hit them otherwise. They're like little rockets out there. So. But
okay.
Yeah, it's that time of year. Teal season will begin, and after that, dove season's coming up here pretty quick.
All right, sounds good. Dave Harrison with the Whiteside County Soil and Water Conservation District, and we'll see you in a month.
In 1 month.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
Keep it on the